Hey, Jeff, thanks for joining me again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good to have you in the news. The biggest crisis yet is facing the Chinese real estate investors. Their largest privately run property developer, Country Garden, is really struggling to survive. Its distress is really creating a big problem for the economy. Looking at a possible debt default. After Evergrande, I think the second largest one already did default. Country Garden's contracted sales of new homes in August fell 70% from a year earlier. That's about 1.1 billion. They're not likely to survive without a rebound. As of the end of June, they were involved in more than 3,000 property projects involving millions of homes, equivalent of about 186 billion in liabilities, including homes that hasn't delivered, money owed to suppliers, bank debt, bonds. Most of those obligations coming due within a year. They've got a record first half loss topping 7 billion after writing down the value of some of the property developments and other assets. And Country Garden, just for some additional background, they focus most of their footprint on rural cities and industrial zones, which were the engine of China's growth in the good times. Uh, so your quick thoughts on what looks like a pretty big problem with a lot of billions attached to it.
Well, you're making me really want to invest in China. That's kind of where it seems right now. But secondarily, like it seems like the spur of all of their growth is on developments that are never going to be sold and or occupied. Um, Honestly, I wish I had something better to say, but I'm not sure what it is. It sounds like just a sinking ship.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful to maybe take a step back and look at the Chinese property market as really kind of two markets. There's the market where you're building stuff, say in Shanghai, that's actually used and people live in or work from. And then there's also been this market of the ghost cities and infrastructure projects that aren't used and stuff that's pretty much just government work projects. And also kind of government supported investment schemes where people can put their money and they feel like the government's going to protect it even if it's never used. It's kind of a bizarre thing, but there's almost kind of a real estate market and then a kind of government scheme, job scheme, investment scheme market. And the Country Garden had a pretty big stake, and I think they're kind of operating on the outlook that the government was going to cover them, as did the investors. And right now, it's an interesting question of is the government going to step up and provide liquidity? Is it going to step up and ease this?
Well, I think
What's yeah.
it's interesting. You kind of said something, but it triggered me to think. If I'm correct, and I think I am, China has has a limit on how many kids you can have. If who's going to be living in these places if half the population can't afford to live there, the other half already has something that they own, they're never going to move there. They don't have enough people to go in and move. Maybe they're better deconstructing and sending the product off somewhere else for use in a country that's going to be able to use it.
Yeah, well, I think you're not wrong. I mean, they have eased up on those child restrictions, but it's really come too late. They're looking at a potential demographic collapse, really. In turn, I mean, I think it's not just a lack of children. It's also like something like 20, 30 million surplus males, because they preferred boys over girls, and since boys still can't have babies yet, that's just makes the whole um demographic situation even worse. Yeah, I think people are really starting to question the Chinese miracle, to question the Chinese economic model, and this story is certainly about more than just one property developer or even the biggest developer. Uh, you know, it is just so wound up though in state policies of a communist dictatorial regime that it's kind of hard for us as real estate guys to talk about it as a market because it really isn't a proper market. But
Well, you don't know what's right. Like, to the victor again, one of those, the victor is the one writing history. You never know who's actually writing you the truth. And the truth is with this one, I can appreciate why Chinese want to come to the United States and and develop here, but I can't. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I can't imagine a place where anybody wants to, input themselves into China, into your point, a dictatorial government.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of leave this with one last comment that it seems to me that China, previously was, kind of to get rich is glorious. I'm probably misstating that, but paraphrasing it close enough. Under Xi, it seems to have gone to the tallest poppy gets cut. That it's now kind of dangerous to be too successful or to stand out. And you got to kind of question, is the Chinese miracle over? Are we looking at a fundamental shift in that economy? The decoupling from China looks like it's real, but to be fair, this is about a lot more than just real estate,
We,
though it's certainly an
you,
interesting real estate
like,
story.
and I know it's called the Chinese miracle, but I feel like it ought to be called the Chinese magic trick. Yeah. And sorry to any of the, any people that I may have offended with that, but I feel like it's just, misconception or distraction or something of the more than just it was a miracle.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we maybe get an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that going forward. Thanks for your insights, Jeff.
Thank you.